I've already tried making a video about this, so let's try it again. All right, so according to one of the original MDMR reports, Captain William Freeman called the Master Sergeant and told them to locate and interview a female subject. And that's how we get to this girl, Lainey. Now, this has always bothered me because I'm like, why is Lainey's name in this report? Why was she brought up at all? Especially since, according to Lainey, she hadn't seen Nolan in over a year and was on a completely different island. So it never made sense to me. And then it effing hit me. So according to this report, on July 5th at 9 a.m., assistance was requested from Captain Freeman as part of the drone search. Freeman was transported to Horn Island, and at approximately 10 a.m. he tried 3 failed launches. It ended up being a software error, and he was unable to fix it in the field. So then at 10:30, Freeman requests that Smith come out and assist with drone duty. Freeman and another officer went and picked up Smith and transported him to Horn Island. But by 12:40, the first drone finally takes flight. Now, wait a minute. If Freeman was out on Horn Island trying to do this drone launch, had to call in assistance, go and get that person, bring them back to Horn Island, then when the F did he get this information about Lainey? Oh, wait, I have an idea.
Was looking for Nolan, who was on the boat. Was it multiple boats? Multiple boats. Okay, explain that. Who was out of this group? Who was on what boat? Or who was on a boat or not? Going out looking for Nolan.
So, me, Wyatt, and Trayston got in the boat. We got in the Palm Beach that morning, the morning after, and to the islands, and we were met by a DMR. There was 7 DMR boats already out there, DMR and park rangers. We talked to them, we gave them all of our information. They personally asked if any of us were on the boat with him that day. We told them yes. They just said, all right, well, we got the area scoped out. And then after that, we just went up to the beach. I think we met up with y'all. Yeah.
Okay, so by Morgan's own words, he, Trayston, and Wyatt were on the Palm Beach out at Horn Island talking to MDMR. Oh, and when was that? When did they do that?
From 9:45 to 11:50, 12 o'clock era, about lunchtime. While we were on the water, we talked to a rescue guy.
Oh, you were out there until 11:50, you say? You mean 5 minutes before this phone call happened? Does that sound like a coincidence to you? Now, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to conclude that they were the ones who gave this information to Captain Bill Freeman. Again, why would they give Lainey's name if she wasn't there in that group that day? Especially when he was supposedly last seen with Katie, whose name, again, is conveniently absent from any report that we've seen. Now, this is about to get deep, y'all, because I reread the line again, now knowing that the boys were the ones who probably gave this information and not just some random good citizen. Specific wording says, Captain Freeman said to locate and interview a female subject that was possibly involved with the missing person on Horn Island. Possibly involved? How did I miss that? How did we all miss that? Because there's 2 other boys mentioned in this that they don't make contact with, and it just says possible names associated with Wells. That is very different and intentional language. Now, as I've told y'all, I've spent weeks learning the dynamics of all these different friend groups and who they're friends with online, etc. Now, this is Lainey. Now, most people have clocked this picture where Lainey is with a girl who is wearing the same swimsuit last 4th of July as the one that is on the boat with Katie. I'm going to try and do this in the easiest way possible. I have narrowed down the BFF group with Lainey and these girls. All of these girls have called each other their best friends and taken pictures with each other at some point or another. Now, none of these girls are friends with any of the Wyatt Warren friend group. All of them are friends with Trayston and Trayston's sister. Trayston's sister has best friend picture relationships with all of these girls. It's very clear that this is a core group of friends. There's group pictures with them, they've lived together, etc. Now, Kendall is the one in the blue and red bikini in this picture. But I found another picture of Bailey and Maggie here from last 4th of July wearing the exact same red and blue swimsuit that Kendall was wearing. So it's pretty safe to say that these girls coordinated all wearing the same bathing suit. Also found this picture of Lainey from 2 4th of Julys ago wearing this bathing suit. Does it look familiar to anybody? That's right, that is clearly the same bathing suit from the boat with Katie, with a face that's conveniently been blurred. Now, do we think it's a coincidence that two swimsuits associated with this friend group all ended up on the same boat as Katie? I'm gonna say the chances are slim. Now, Kendall seems to have a longtime boyfriend, and guess what his name is? Jacob Brooks, which is the second name that comes up on this report. And guess who seems to be Lainey's longtime boyfriend? Drew Johnson, the other name on this report. Now, Drew, unlike all of these people over here, Drew is friends with the Warren Wyatt friend group. Also the only one out of this entire group that is Facebook friends with Nolan. If this was the boys telling this information to the captain, why were they saying that their buddy's girlfriend was possibly involved with Nolan? And why would Trayston be snitching on his sister's friends like this? Now wait, one of Katie's BFFs, Nevaeh, is friends with a Caden McGrath. Caden is friends with 0 people from either group except for Nevaeh, as far as I can tell. Caden is somehow related to a Joe, who is frequently advertising on his page for the Biloxi Bay RV Resort. The one that I was saying that according to the GPS coordinates looks like they may have dropped somebody off at. So in my opinion, Joe is clearly somehow related to the Marty McGrath, who was the one who apparently took all these people on this boat, including Katie, when this friend group was supposedly left on this island. And I feel like that language is really important and overlooked because left makes it sound like your ride left without you. Now, according to Joe's LinkedIn, he is IT for the Ocean Marine Group, which is owned by Jerry Adkerson. Aiden is also the only person I can find who is friends with Captain Chris Seth Ward, the son of Chris Ward, who was called by Jerry to cancel the sea tow allegedly on his private line before the sea tow call was even finished. I also found a very weak connection through social media between Lainey and a girl who is in the same sorority as the girl who threw the party, Ava, allegedly threw the party. So what if Trayston's slick comment wasn't about Katie at all? Because I don't know about you guys, but we have seen absolutely 0 proof that Katie was actually out there with them. They have kept the story hyper-focused on Katie, and no other girls' names have really gotten out. What if Katie has been the red herring this whole time? I don't know. I'm still trying to piece through. I'm still trying to figure it out because there's clearly a chunk that is missing out of this story. Like, I think Lainey is a red herring too, don't get me wrong, because I don't see these boys like freely offering up their motive or anything. But it sounds like maybe this Lainey girl was involved with Nolan behind her boyfriend's back at some point, and they tried.
Someone on that water spoke to law enforcement. Someone gave officers a specific name, and that single piece of information sent search teams chasing a total phantom. Okay, stay with me here. Because to understand why this timeline matters, you have to see how an island search works. Horn Island is a barrier island. It sits miles off the Mississippi coast. There are no roads out there. There are no permanent residents. There is no easy way on or off. Everything that happens on that island leaves a trail on the water. Every boat that arrives is seen. Every radio call is recorded. Every dispatch entry gets a timestamp. Now, watch this. Let's pull up the official investigative report from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. We are going back to July 5th. The morning after Nolan disappeared, at 9 o'clock in the morning, state officials request specialized search equipment. They call in Captain William Freeman to conduct an aerial drone search of the island. At approximately 10 o'clock a.m., Captain Freeman arrives on Horn Island. He sets up his equipment on the beach. He powers on the drone. He tries to launch. First launch, complete failure. Second launch, another error. Third launch, software failure in the field. The drone cannot fly. Now, look at the logistics here. At 10:30 a.m., Captain Freeman calls for backup. He requests an officer named Smith to bring replacement equipment to the island. Freeman has to get back in a boat. He rides across the water to meet Smith. He picks him up from the mainland. Then he transports him all the way back. By the time they fix the software and get the drone into the air, the official log reads 12:40 p.m. That is nearly 3 full hours, where the captain is focused entirely on equipment. He is dealing with technical failures. He is riding back and forth on boats. He is managing search personnel on the beach. Keep that 1240 timestamp in your mind, because while that drone was grounded, something completely bizarre entered the official case file. Somewhere right before noon, Captain Freeman places a direct radio call to his master sergeant on duty. He does not ask about search grids. He does not ask about water currents. He gives a very specific investigative order. He tells his officers to immediately locate and interrogate a female subject named Laney. Now, listen to the exact wording in the report. The file does not say potential witness. It does not say casual acquaintance. The official document says she was possibly involved with the missing person on Horn Island. Let that phrase sink in for a second. Possibly involved. Why would state investigators write that? Why would an aerial search commander suddenly pivot to an off-island female while his drones are sitting on the sand? Here is where the record gets disturbing. Laney was not on Horn Island that weekend. She was not on any boat near Nolan. She was miles away on a different island. She had not spoken to Nolan in over a year. She had zero connection to that night's events. Yet her name suddenly became priority number one for state investigators searching for a missing man. How did Captain Freeman get that name? Who handed it to him out on that water? The answer is sitting inside a witness statement that was recorded and uploaded online. Now look at the second timeline. While Captain Freeman was out by the island, another boat was operating in the exact same area. A boat called the Palm Beach. Aboard that vessel were three young men, Morgan, Tristan, and Wyatt. These were not random boaters out for a cruise. These were individuals connected to the gathering where Nolan was last seen alive. Listen to Morgan's own words, describing their movements that exact morning. Morgan stated they took the Palm Beach out to Horn Island the morning after Nolan vanished. When they arrived at the island, they encountered the search fleet. There were 7 Department of Marine Resources boats. There were state park rangers on scene. Morgan admitted that his group pulled up and initiated direct contact with the officers. They spoke directly with search personnel. They told officers they were with Nolan on the boat the day he went missing. They gave the officers information, and then Morgan gave a very specific time frame for how long they were out there talking. He stated they were on the water with officers from 9:45 a.m. until 11:50 a.m. Right around lunchtime, 11:50 a.m. Now, place those two timestamps right next to each other. The three young men finished their conversation with law enforcement at 11:50 a.m. And just minutes later, Captain Freeman radios in the urgent order to track down Laney. A 5-minute gap. Does that sound like a coincidence to you? Let's look at the investigative reality. Law enforcement officers do not invent names. A search captain stuck on an island does not pull a random girl's name out of thin air while fixing a drone. That name came from someone on that water. It came from an interview conducted at the scene. And the only recorded interview happening in that exact window of time was with the individuals aboard the Palm Beach. Now, ask yourself the critical question. Why would anyone give police Laney's name? If Laney was not on the island, if Laney had not seen Nolan in 12 months, why offer her up to state investigators? Especially when Nolan was supposedly last seen with an entirely different girl named Katie. Katie was reportedly right there on the boat. Katie was present during the holiday gathering. Yet Katie's name is completely missing from those initial search directives. Instead, officers were sent hunting for Laney. In criminal investigations, words matter. Police report terminology is highly standardized. When investigators write possible name associated, it means a background contact, a friend, a relative, a bystander. And in this exact same report, 2 other male names are listed that way. They are labeled as names associated with Wells. Officers made no effort to contact them. They were treated as routine background notes. But Laney's name was treated completely differently. She was singled out with active, urgent phrasing. Locate and interview a female subject possibly involved with the missing person. That is deliberate language. That indicates investigators were told something specific. They were told she had direct relevance to why Nolan Wells was no longer on that island. Whoever gave that information did not just provide a casual lead. They directed state search resources away from the water and toward an uninvolved person on the mainland. Think about what happens during a search operation. The first 24 hours are critical. Every deputy assigned to locate a phone number, every officer sent to knock on a mainland door, is an officer not searching the coastline. Every minute spent chasing an irrelevant witness is a minute lost on the water. Was this an honest mistake by confused witnesses? Or was it a calculated distraction designed to buy time on the island? This is why digital timelines are vital. People can tell whatever story they want online. They can post defensive videos on social media. They can claim they were trying to help. They can point fingers at mutual acquaintances. They can craft narratives that sound plausible. But physical records do not have an agenda. A boat GPS unit records exact coordinates. Cell towers record exact connection times. Dispatch consoles log radio calls down to the second. And when you lay those independent data points over the statements given by witnesses, the contradictions become impossible to ignore. We do not need more internet theories. We do not need wild social media accusations. Nolan's family does not need another rumor. They need the physical evidence examined properly. They need every radio transmission released. They need every boat track cross-referenced. They need every witness statement tested against the hard forensic data of that morning. Because when a young man vanishes without a trace from an island surrounded by dozens of witnesses, the truth is never lost. It is simply buried under false leads. If you believe that Nolan Wells deserves justice and that every official document must be scrutinized, hit the subscribe button on Detective Crime Hour right now. We do not settle for surface-level reporting. We pull the original logs. We verify the timestamps, and we hold the evidence to the highest standard. Because when you look beyond that 5-minute gap, you discover a hidden web of social connections, blurred photographs, and missing boat records that lead straight to a private marina in Biloxi Bay. The 5-minute gap leads to a deeper web. When you look at the physical logs, the official timeline completely falls apart. So the question becomes simple. Why target Laney? Why put her name in an official report? To understand that motive, you have to look at the digital footprints. Independent investigators began pulling apart social media archives. They looked at years of public photos. They mapped out interconnected friend groups. They tracked every single person connected to that holiday weekend gathering. And what they found was a carefully constructed digital shield. Take a look at the photographic evidence. Laney belongs to a very tight circle, a specific group of lifelong friends. They post pictures together constantly online. They take holiday trips together. In these photos, a distinct pattern emerged. Matching swimsuits. Coordinated holiday outfits across multiple years. Specifically, a distinct red and blue bikini pattern. Now look at the photos taken on the boat. The weekend Nolan Wells vanished. 2 of those exact same swimsuits appear. Same cut, same pattern, same specific design. They are standing on the boat deck, next to a girl identified as Katie. Now check the official search documents. Katie was reportedly the last person seen with Nolan Wells alive. She was physically out on that water. She was right at the center of the gathering. Yet Katie's name is completely absent from the primary investigative reports. Not listed as a witness, not listed as a person of interest, nothing. And in the photographs circulating online, Her face was systematically blurred out. Why protect Katie's identity so aggressively? Why erase her from the public narrative? Was Katie used as a deliberate shield to protect the other people on that boat? Okay, stay with me on this next part. Because the social circles reveal something even bigger. When you map out the connections, two more names appear on the report: Drew Johnson and Jacob Brooks. Drew is connected to the Wyatt friend group. He is also the only person in that circle who was direct friends with Nolan on Facebook. Jacob is connected through Laney's circle. These were not random strangers. These were distinct social factions, operating on the exact same island. If the boys on the Palm Beach gave Laney's name to the captain, they were naming someone from a different circle. They were pointing the finger at their buddy's girlfriend. Why do that? Why draw law enforcement toward an outside group unless you want them looking away from yours? Now follow the physical movement of the boats, because this is where the digital trail goes cold. Look at the GPS coordinates from that weekend. The data tracks multiple vessels, leaving Horn Island in a hurry. One specific track heads directly north. It bypasses the standard public docks. It bypasses the main harbors. Instead, it heads toward a private RV resort located in Biloxi Bay. Take a look at that drop-off point. The coordinates place a boat right against the shoreline. Someone was dropped off at that resort in the early morning hours. Who was on that boat? Who was dropped off before authorities were notified? And why did they choose that specific location? This is where the money trail begins. This is where powerful local connections surface. The RV resort ties directly to a local operator. That operator is connected to Ocean Marine Group, a massive, influential commercial boat company. The owner of that group is Jerry Atkinson. And look at what happened the moment state search operations began. A call was placed to Captain Chris Ward, a call made directly on a private line. The purpose of the call? To cancel the emergency search response. The order to stand down was given before the official search call was even completed. Let that fact sink in for a second. A young man is missing in open water, and private phone calls are being made to pull search teams off the water. Why cancel a rescue operation for a 22-year-old boy? Who had the authority to make that call? And who were they trying to protect? If you want to help us expose the truth and bring real justice to families like Nolan's, hit that subscribe button on Detective Crime Hour right now. We don't bow to local influence. We follow the evidence wherever it goes. Together, we make sure cases like this are never swept under the rug. Now, to look at this physical evidence. A video surfaces from an industrial lot. Sitting behind a locked security fence is a Triton boat. The exact make and model of the boat, Nolan Wells, was last seen aboard. Investigators walk right up to the fence line. Look at the outboard motor. Look at the hydraulic assembly. The two trim rods extending from the motor are completely disconnected. The trim system is entirely non-functional. Now look back at the original witness statements. What did witnesses say happened on Horn Island? They claimed Nolan had mechanical trouble. They said his boat had severe trim issues on the exact night he disappeared. The motor could not be raised. The boat could not navigate shallow sandbars. And here is a Triton boat, hidden behind a private security fence, with the exact same mechanical failure. The ignition key was still left in the console. Is this the smoking gun? Is this Nolan's actual vessel? Or is it another carefully placed distraction? Here is where we have to be precise. True crime channels love jumping to conclusions. They see a boat and declare the case solved. We do not operate that way. A boat behind a fence is a lead. It is not a final conviction. To prove that vessel is tied to a crime, you need forensic confirmation. You need the hull identification number. You need the state vessel registration. You need forensic swabs of the deck. You need chain of custody documentation showing who parked that boat behind that fence. Without hull IDs and registration documents, it remains an unverified lead. We don't need wild internet rumors. We don't need unvetted TikTok theories. We need hard, unalterable digital proof. We need the raw GPS data files, pulled directly from the onboard marine electronics. We need every cell tower ping, from every phone present on that beach. We need the metadata from every photograph taken. Because digital metadata does not lie. A timestamp cannot be coached by an attorney. A GPS coordinate cannot change its story in court. The truth of what happened to Nolan Wells is locked inside those electronic records. It is written in the radio dispatch logs. It is recorded in the private phone records that canceled a search for a missing man. And we will not stop pulling these records until every contradiction is answered. Nolan Wells did not simply vanish into thin air. People saw what happened that night. People made phone calls the next morning. And people gave false names to investigators to keep the truth buried in the sand. The digital shield is finally cracking open. And when the raw forensic logs are exposed, the people who orchestrated this narrative will run out of places to hide. To make sure you see the next piece of forensic proof we uncover, join Detective Crime Hour today and watch with us, because the real investigation starts right now.